Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me here today. Today, we'll focus on learning from Gen Z, the mobile consumer, how to build a successful SMS strategy. Joining me today is Forrester, who will talk about how to follow consumer cues so you can drive business success with the mobile channel, just like SMS marketing. My name is Kim Winter. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for our SMS product here at Yotpo, and I'm excited to be here today. If you're unfamiliar with Yotpo yet, we're the e-commerce marketing platform, and we have data-driven solutions for loyalty, reviews, user-generated content, and SMS marketing that all work together to help e-commerce brands just like yourself launch captivating experiences for your consumers that get your customers to come back again and again. Today's session is focused on specifically on SMS marketing and how to get the most out of your program. I have here today with me Jessica Liu from Forrester. Jessica, I'm excited to collaborate on this and would love it if you introduce yourself.
Awesome. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me, Kim and Yotpo. I'm Jessie Liu. I am a senior analyst at Forrester serving B2C marketing professionals. I cover marketing technologies and specifically in the marketing operations as well as mobile marketing and personalization spaces.
Excited to have you here, and I'm so excited about today's topic. All the brands that we speak to continuously ask, how to build an SMS program that's fit based on consumers, their characteristics, what they want. So I figure we can dive right in and sort of share with everyone that's joining us today what we can learn from Gen Z about how to build the right SMS marketing program.
Awesome. All right. Let me. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see this opening slide, but yes, as Kim kicked off for us, I'll be covering today learning from Gen Z to build a successful SMS strategy. And let's move on to what I will be covering if this would advance. Here we go. All right, so the agenda today, I'm going to be covering 3 areas. First, how are consumers evolving, and particularly Gen Z, the cohort of the cohort of note for today. And then second, I'll cover why do companies need to deliver on consumers' moments, and then I'll end with how can companies build successful SMS marketing programs. I'll spend a little time in the upfront and then really dive deep on the second and third parts, which is, in my opinion, the most exciting parts too. All right, so first, how are consumers evolving, particularly Gen Z? Let me start by just saying a very obvious statement that I'm sure you guys feel deeply every day, but consumer experiences have transformed at a crazy, unprecedented, and aggressive pace. And this was happening, by the way, well before the pandemic. You can see here on the left side, we are facing cognitive load on consumers being very heavy. There's just so much information available and really just forced upon us as consumers. And then another factor, the emerging technologies and shifting cultural norms have really fueled sort of consumers escalating expectations of what an experience or an interaction is like with a brand. And then on the right side, you can see sort of the number of consumer devices and touch points has proliferated. I mean, think about how many devices you yourself own personally. And then this fourth concept of the ideas of sort of channels becoming increasingly irrelevant because you have consumers who are expecting sort of seamless and intuitive access to content and communications and services across all of these touch points, across all of these channels. And right in the middle there at the heart, you have a handful of really large companies like Amazon or Apple or Facebook/Meta and Google, who have really sort of tightened their grip on consumers' time, their money, their data, their headspace, which kind of limits other brands' access to their own customers. So these sort of 5 forces contributing to these transformed experiences. But the macro driver at play, in my opinion, is the degree to which consumers are connected and empowered today. And you're going to hear this word from Forrester a lot, empowered. Forrester defines empowered and connected consumers by these 5 facets you can see on the slide. First, the willingness to experiment, especially younger cohorts like Gen Z. The second is self-efficacy, sort of optimizing their own experiences, how they like. The third is information savviness, kind of knowing where to find the relevant information and being really quick to share that information that you find. This merging of digital and physical integration, where a great example of this is buy online, pick up in store, which really accelerated in the pandemic. And then last is device usage, which again, I probably don't need to explain the dominance and reliance on devices, especially with mobile devices. But this concept of empowered and connected consumers is really driving entirely new business models and new ways of consuming products. And you can see our own data shows that consumers want to interact with brands digitally. You can see on the slide here, this is data representing US online adults aged 18 plus. 59% say that technology is important to me. 66% expect companies to make their websites mobile friendly, and 56% expect companies to have a mobile app. Now, we kicked off this session talking about Gen Z, and I want to just state Gen Z has absolutely been influential in this change. And just as a definition and clarification, we do define Gen Z as being born in 1997 or later, so at present 25 years old or younger. And we see Gen Z as sort of omni-channel authorities, right? They don't know a life without instant on-demand access to goods or services or entertainment or information. And this makes them really comfortable and really versatile and really resourceful in this sort of blurred space between online and offline expectations, of course, as long as it's on their own terms, right? And that part's important, as long as it's on their own terms.
Jess, I can really relate to that. You know, one of the things we spent a lot of time doing here at Yotpo is really understanding the end consumers. And I think for brands, this workshop is so important, because if you understand your consumer, you understand what they need, their characteristics, what makes them unique, you can build that tailored program that's relevant to them. And you're absolutely correct. And, you know, every time we speak to Gen Z, they want to vote with their feet. They want to decide exactly which experiences are right for them. And many times we hear them saying things like, we want it to be immediate, and we want it to be relevant, and we want it to be very fast and convenient, right? So just like you said, we see that they're actually optimizing the experiences for them. And I think this session makes it that much more important for brands to understand, okay, how am I going to interact with this new type of consumer on mobile? So really excited to dive deeper into kind of the recommendations, how we tailor the strategy accordingly.
Amazing. All right, well, a little bit more data and color commentary to what Kim was just describing coming out of Forrester. You can see here that Gen Z in particular, and this helps sort of guide how brands think about approaching Gen Z, but Gen Z prefers a smartphone over a desktop or tablet or smartwatch or any other type of sort of consumer tech to do these various activities that you can see in this data chart. So top, of course, being access social media sites or apps. Second being sending or receiving messages to and from companies or brands. And you can see the over-indexing of Gen Z in the light green compared to the general population in the dark green. Gen Z skews higher across all activities listed in this data chart, as you can see overrepresented in the light green bars compared to the dark green. And another interesting data point, Gen Z also most prefers to type a text or instant message via a chat or messaging interface. And this is in general, not just with brands or companies, but they prefer to text or IM or chat or use a messaging interface with anyone, people, friends, family, brands, companies, compared to their older generational cohorts. So you can see again in the light green, the descending bars as the generations age from left to right, from Gen Z all the way over to baby boomers on the right. That light green bar is descending. And then conversely, baby boomers are more inclined to use sort of point and click navigation or buttons or menus, which you can see represented in the ascending dark blue bars as the generations age from left to right. So an interesting contrast and juxtaposition of preferences in interfaces and devices between age cohorts. Okay, so how do you as a company sort of manage these evolving consumer expectations, and particularly those of this younger cohort in Gen Z? Well, I want to introduce this concept of a moment. Companies have to manage through this consumer-led disruption by understanding that companies win in customers' moments. And we define a moment as, you can see right here on the slide, a moment is a point in time and space when a person interacts with a brand to get what they want immediately and in context. And those words are important, hence the highlight in green, immediately and in context. Now, moments are everywhere. They span the entire customer lifecycle. What you can see here is Forrester's representation of the customer and brand relationship. We believe it is cyclical and not linear as commonly depicted in the sales funnel that is everywhere. We believe that customers go through these 6 stages of a customer lifecycle. They discover a brand, they then explore its product or service, they buy it, they then use the product or service, they may run into trouble at some point and ask for support or help from customer service. They then hopefully have had such an amazing experience in the first few stages of the customer lifecycle that they then decide to engage with the brand long term if that experience has been truly that positive. And in doing that, engaging with the brand long term, they will learn about new products, new services that the brand is offering, and they will go back through this customer lifecycle. And the goal from a brand's perspective is to get customers to run through this customer lifecycle over and over and over again, much like a hamster wheel. So you can see here on this slide examples of moments that are happening across the customer lifecycle, from an advertising moment in the discover stage to maybe an influencing moment in the explore stage to a sales moment in the buy stage, to product moments that are happening in the use stage, to customer service moments in the ask stage, to loyalty moments in the engage stage. And all of these moments sum up to a full customer experience. And I can't emphasize that enough. These individual moments sum up to a full customer experience. But unfortunately, companies today are not doing a good job of delivering that full customer experience. And because I know retail is might be a particular interest to this audience, I wanted to share this specific data point about the retail experience. 30% of US online adults feel that companies do a good job creating relevant shopping experiences for them. 30%, that's 1 in 3. A little under actually, 1 in 3. Those are not encouraging numbers for a brand, particularly those in the retail industry. Now, I get that embracing this concept of moments is hard. Moments requires a shift in mindset. Moments-based marketing is setting a new standard for customer engagement. And I get it that it's hard, it's more difficult. Shifting from sort of traditional historical broad segmentation via outbound campaigns, shifting from that state to more individual, real-time, predictive moments dramatically increases the operational scope and sphere on the back end for companies, and particularly for marketers. So as you can see here in this visual, the engagement breadth and engagement granularity both increase on the X and Y axes as companies try to shift towards moments-based marketing. Now, at the heart of a moment, just to dissect this anatomically, at the heart of a moment is context. You need context first. Context is the sum of everything a company can know about a consumer's situation, their behaviors, and their emotions. And all interactions really do have to share this sort of common source for context. With that context, companies can then go construct the rest of the moment. And they construct that by answering the 4 components in the colored green boxes outside of context. So the first would be consumer, that's the who. And who, signals very clearly the recipient of the content or the service. And today, I would say most experiences tend to be static experiences that are designed to serve everybody. So for example, a lot of outbound marketing campaigns that tend to be batch and blast protocols. So when a consumer needs something, they visit a website, they open up an app, and ultimately all those customers really want is service, not self-service. And so moving forward, consumers will really expect brands to push experiences out to them. And subsequently, brands have to sort of design and assemble and deliver experiences for those moments and not large swaths of consumers. The second component is the content, the what. This is the content or service that you actually offer your customers. So a traditional view of content might pigeonhole content as text or image or video, but content could also be a widget or maybe a small app that allows a consumer to, buy a movie ticket or send money to a peer within a text message. And so as an anticipatory experience, content could also be a suggestion to eat this food item over another food item, or maybe it's a word suggestion as you're composing an email. That is all considered content. And looking even more down the road, in the future, an agent service might turn off a stove that a homeowner has accidentally left on, and that could be considered content, right? The third component is channel, that's the where. This is the delivery mechanism for the what. So brands sort of choose this combination of devices, platforms, or channels where they can offer or deliver these experiences. If you think about it, it's crazy. Today's consumers access the internet on, I think our data says, on more than 12 devices, platforms, and channels. More than 12. They also use a combination of touch, chat, voice, and gestures to access the content or the service. So for example, right, since we're talking about SMS, sending mobile messages sounds pretty simple, straightforward, but in reality, it offers many choices across devices like Apple device, Samsung, Nokia, Google, etc. It offers choices across platforms, iMessage, WeChat, WhatsApp, Line, and of course channels, email, SMS, push notification, in-app inbox, mobile optimized web. There are many options for the channel. And that finally brings me to the fourth box, which is the trigger, the when. And this is the moment that you actually trigger the content or service delivery. And currently, most moments are very customer pulled rather than company pushed. And even when companies are trying to engage consumers proactively, the triggers are very time-based, at this specific time or this specific day of the month. They might be event-based, like a sports score alert, or your deposit is now available for use. Your bank deposit might be available for use. It could be campaign-driven, like a Black Friday sale, back to school. So a few experiences today are really actually triggered based on real-time context, like weather or location or biometric data or personal behavior. And that's going to have to change, right, as companies want to start improving these experiences. So that's the anatomy of a moment. Think of it as context is key, not content is key, context is key. And you then need to answer the 4 questions around it: the what, the where, the when, the who. I said that backwards, sorry. The who, the what, the where, and the when. Okay, today, mobile channels, as I mentioned earlier, are the most common method to facilitate these moments. You can see here some data to support. Mobile is obviously a very broad word. There are multiple channels at play. You can see here where we surveyed 70 enterprise executives and asked which of the following best describes your firm's state of development of customer experiences. For each of the following messaging channels, you can see email is overwhelmingly first, followed by SMS. And it's interesting because both of those channels are designed to be naturally bidirectional, but in today's execution, companies end up using it more to blast messages to consumers and customers, so they end up being one way. by default. Which is very illustrative of the problem facing these companies today, right? They're bogged down in these one-way communication channels. And so remember when I mentioned earlier that we think of channels as kind of answering the where question in that anatomy of a moment and how you construct it. They are a transport or delivery mechanism for a mobile message. And today, many companies sort of force consumers to channel hop. And what I mean by that is, like, imagine, you have to click into an app after you receive a push notification, or you have to respond to an SMS message by placing a phone call separately or going to a website separately, instead of maintaining the experience inside that channel where the interaction started or originated. Pushing out brand information to consumers without the ability to respond in the same exact channel creates friction, whether intentional or not. And maturing in channel sophistication ultimately is going to be required, where you can allow brands to move from sort of beginner state where you're delivering beginner state to more aspirational state where you're delivering these sort of convenient moments in more flexible and interactive bi-directional exchanges. And I should mention that interactive bi-directional exchange could even be with a machine. The point is that consumers want to sort of seamlessly interact with companies and expect more of these conversational interfaces. And brands are going to have to figure out how to deliver kind of the right-sized information or service to customers. SMS has traditionally been a stalwart in companies' moments maturity journey. You can see here on the slide, from beginners dabbling in SMS and push notifications to more intermediate stage and adding these sort of in-app and in-app inbox and email to sort of advanced state, considering messages to non-smartphone devices like tablet or PC. And then finally, the aspirational state at the bottom there, which sees sort of this confluence of mobile messaging and conversational interface, and SMS as a channel, as you can see in this maturity curve, is really embedded along these moments. Okay. Similar to the data I shared earlier about companies delivering poor customer experiences, companies are similarly not delivering relevant mobile messages. Infrequently receive relevant mobile messages. And on the flip side, only 36% feel they often receive relevant mobile messages from brand and service providers. So there is an opportunity. Here's an example of a text from a large national retailer who will go unnamed, operating over 90 stores nationwide. And I feel I have to be deliberately vague in anonymizing this retailer because it's not a great illustration or not a great example, but this retailer is really doing all of the heavy lifting in this example of a text message sent to a fellow analyst on my team. She had no idea who sent this message, what the offer was, or any other sort of pertinent details to make this text message valuable and relevant to her. So we've seen the data now.
Just one other thing about that, I look at that message, if you can go back to it, and I'm basically saying to myself, wait, who am I? Why am I receiving this message? And I think that's something that we can double tap into, because I think for me, this is probably the most important thing, right? We talked about who the consumer is, what they want, their trends, and they're basically saying, these messages are not personalized to me. They're not relevant. These experiences aren't basically what I want to be getting with brands. And the way we look at it here at Yotpo is just kind of like you said, right? Like, every moment matters in the customer life cycle. And for me, every moment, every interaction that a brand has with a customer, that's essentially what's going to build their loyalty. That's what's going to actually build a relationship. So we have to make sure that every one of these experiences and moments is tailored, is unique, it's personalized. And if I get a message, I know, why am I, Kim, receiving the message? Who is the brand? Why are they reaching out to me? And even the content and the time and everything makes sense to me, which I think is really important. More often than not, when people come to us and they start building their SMS program, one of the things that happens is they have in their mind that this is sort of like a, blast, set, and forget. And I think one of the most important things, and it's not a blast, set, and forget, right? It's not a one size fits all approach, and you have to be really tailored with your strategy, really thoughtful. I think thoughtful is one of the words we love to use most here when building the strategy with our brands, because we want to think, what do you need to do to get this consumer to actually smile, be happy, get excited when they get the message, right? And for that, you need tons of data, tons of understanding of the customer. And like you said, it can be a huge operational lift. So you also want to kind of go with a provider that makes these things easy for you so that you can kind of build at scale and make personalization happen. And I know later down the line, we're also going to show some example of brands that have really taken it to the next level in terms of taking these consumer cues and actually building these experiences that consumers want.
Perfect. Well, I can't wait to see the examples. But first, let's get to the last section. Thanks for that, Kim. So we've seen the data. Consumers don't feel they're getting great experiences from brands. As Kim said, they need to be more individualized. They need to be more personal. They also don't feel the mobile messages they receive from brands are very relevant. And these data points to me illustrate a gap, which illustrates an opportunity. So brands need to do better, right? Brands can do better just to stand out. And for SMS in particular, SMS marketing programs do require sort of a thoughtful strategy to engage customers in the right moments. And I'm going to walk through some recommendations there. But before I dive into those strategic recommendations, I do want to first mention that SMS is not a silver bullet, and it does require several channel-specific considerations. So on the left side here on this slide, you can see the pros of using SMS programs in the dark green boxes versus on the right are things you need to be concerned with as you use SMS in the light green boxes. So I'll start by saying first, while the channel boasts incredibly high open rates, it's also an incredibly essentially disruptive, interruptive channel. And consumers will get annoyed if you're not delivering a relevant message to them. Second, you can reach a vast network of consumers on SMS, but batch and blast text messages will not get you very far. Example is that one on the previous slide to my fellow colleague. And third, a phone number is a powerful identifier, and that phone number nearly guarantees your customer will see your message, but you have to provide a really compelling reason for customers to give you that personal information to begin with, especially in today's customer privacy conscious environment. So each pro has a careful consideration that you need to weigh, and I feel as a public service announcement, that is my way of telling you to be responsible. All right, so we got that PSA out of the way. Let's jump into the actual recommendation here. So SMS offers a very tempting value proposition between the accessibility to consumers, the incredible engagement rates. We covered that in the previous slide. But you will fail if you jump into message sending without first assessing if doing so is actually appropriate for your business and your customer base. So I always recommend to our clients here at Forrester to start with the POST framework to build your SMS program. And POST is a very foundational Forrester methodology. It stands for, as you can see on this slide, people, objectives, strategy, and technology. So starting with people, you need to be asking yourself, are my customers interested in SMS? Do they fit in the right cohort or the right age or the right segment that is aligned with that kind of device usage and that kind of communication usage? Ask yourself, will SMS help me reach a new audience maybe? Maybe you're now targeting a new audience segment and this makes sense for that audience. And you need to also ask, who will run my SMS program internally? That's another facet of people that you may want to consider. Then move to O for objectives. What are my business goals that SMS will help me solve? Maybe your objective sits somewhere along that customer life cycle that I introduced earlier. What metrics will I use to define success? It's critical that you identify those KPIs now in the objective stage so that you know what to measure. And what value will SMS add to my marketing mix is another good question to ask yourself. And then you can move on to S, strategy. Questions like, what content will I deliver through SMS? When will I send my customer messages via SMS? and why do customers need to be reached via SMS? So a lot of answering sort of those questions that are in the construction of a moment beyond context. So the content, the where, and the trigger. And then finally, the T is for technology, and I emphasize technology is last. You should be making decisions based on people and objective well before you're making any decisions based on technology. Technology is really simply to ask yourself, what solutions do I need to execute the program that I just laid out after answering people, objective, and strategy. So that's post in a very, very quick summarized slide. And I did want to spend my last 3 slides actually talking about how sophisticated companies sort of approach SMS with a few examples to illustrate. So one option that more advanced companies might take is to craft opt-in programs that tailor future messaging experiences. So segmentation can really begin as consumers start signing up for your SMS program, which could help brands like yourself deliver relevancy for their, I guess immediately, could deliver relevancy immediately for your SMS program. So I'll give you an example of a national shoe retailer who we spoke to. They created sort of different opt-in keywords for each of its individual store locations around the US. And so that when consumers joined their SMS program, the brand knew which store they were shopping in, and they could use that to drive segmentation by store location and geography. So, for example, if a particular retail location had exclusive product drops, or maybe in-store events, or maybe it was a regional sale, that retailer could specifically message customers whose nearby stores were participating. Okay, another way is to treat SMS as an extension of the product. So don't use SMS as sort of like an add-on to your existing marketing channels. Instead, view it as a means of impacting the actual customer experience, the entire customer experience. Because if you can conceptualize SMS as an extension of the product experience, it will really change your perception of how you're building that SMS channel. And now maybe, hopefully, you're thinking about the interactive one-to-one nature of the experience rather than, pushing out another promotion in another channel. And you could coordinate marketing messages with sort of that useful information about your products and services. And I can give you a few examples here. One national wireless provider will send text messages to tell you as a customer when you're running low on data, and they'll prompt you to upgrade your cell phone plan or switch data products or buy more data, which is an extension of their product and service. And in fact, they're trying to upsell you, but they're also trying to give you utility in telling you that you're running low on data. Another example is a medical clinic sends text messages to remind customers to schedule an appointment or to schedule a follow-up appointment that the doctor has requested. And they'll send that reminder with a link to the appointment booking system in the text message. So an extension again of their service happening right there in the message, both providing utility and an opportunity to increase product usage or service usage in this case. And then finally, a third option, build SMS specific campaigns. So rather than recreate emails or push notifications in SMS, which happens often, reserve SMS for high value messages. So something different or maybe more premium than messages you might push through other channels. As an example, one startup jewelry company was really emphasizing the intimacy of their SMS channel. And so they text new customers a promotion code, new customer 20% off or 15% off type message, but they also, with that promotion code, remind the customer to add the company to their contact list so that the customer can learn about new products, new sales, and other sort of exclusive events. And this really showcases the value of subscribing to the SMS program. So to bring it home, I just want to summarize the key takeaways. First, today's consumers are empowered and connected. Gen Z has been influential in that transformation. Access to information, device usage, experimentation, blending offline and online. This is all the hallmarks of today's empowered and connected consumer, and particularly Gen Z. Second, companies win in customers' moments. Mobile channels like SMS facilitate many of these moments across the customer lifecycle. And finally, successful SMS programs, and I'd argue all marketing programs, really should start with the POST methodology. First, understand your audience, that's the people, then outline your objective, and at the same time, define how you will define success and measure it, then create a strategy, specifically those tactics, how you will execute, and then pick your technology to help support. And that is it from me. I'm going to turn it over to Kim to share some examples. Give me a second.
Jess, that was amazing. And what we're going to do now is share some of these really great examples of how brands in e-commerce and retailer are using our product to actually build these experiences that Jess and I spoke about, these moments. So first up, we have AX Paris. I thought this is a great one to start with. Jess just spoke about the importance of opt-in, how to get people to opt in, how to use opt-in data to further that connection with the customer. And if you think about it, the moment that a customer signs up for an SMS program, that's just a moment in time, right? But if you use it wisely, you can do so much more with it. So AX Paris used the Yotpo SMS Bump SMS solution to grow 100K SMS subscribers in 1 month. How do you do that? Use a variety of different experiences to get subscribers. And these Gen Z consumers, mobile consumers, are everywhere these days, right? Which is why you need different sign-up units, different subscriber experience at various points in time. And that customer journey, that's no longer that linear, right? So we use pop-ups, we use personalized embedded forms to sign them up. We sign them up in checkout. We use keywords, just like Jess was talking about earlier. All of these are super important. And then within these opt-in experiences, what we like to do is also give a short-term benefit and a long-term benefit. And that, I think, is the importance in thinking about the context, the moment, the experience we give. Short-term, easy, Jess alluded to it earlier, 10%, 15%, 20%, you name it. What is the value that I'm getting by signing up? But then that long-term benefit is where we actually use moments to create lifetime value, to create a relationship with the consumer, right? So we always recommend to brands, let consumers know what they're signing up for, what makes this channel unique, what will you send them on that channel. A lot of successful brands, just like AX Paris, use their text list as a more VIP type club. So in advance, they only send specific offers through SMS. They allow brands to have a conversation with them in SMS, ask them for recommendations on size, on colors, things like that. So really let consumers know what are the benefits of signing up. That will ensure that they have a great experience and the right consumers sign up for the right channel that they want to engage with. In doing this, AX Paris saw 55x ROI, which is insane, just on their latest Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaigns. And not only that, they're seeing 6.5x higher ROI on SMS than email. Again, this example fully focused on how we optimize that opt-in experience, that first welcome message, and that first interaction that's supposed to drive for a lifelong kind of interaction between the brand and the consumer. Jess, I'd love to show the next example. So next up over here, we have Dossier, one of my favorite brands actually. So Dossier had already built their SMS program, set up kind of their objectives, what they're going to do, and realized at some point that they're missing a lot of key data to make these experiences the ones that their consumers want to interact with. So Dossier had actually migrated to our SMS solution from a different one in order to unlock really unique customer data. So in the beginning, I spoke about Yotpo. You know, we have many different solutions for e-commerce marketers, from reviews, user-generated content, loyalty, now subscriptions. And all of those different products, they all sit somewhere across that customer journey, right? They're all about bringing customer back again and again. So what we do is we open all of this data up to our SMS consumers so they can really use all this data to create unique experiences, unique segments, truly understand where the customer is at part of the customer life cycle. And again, not take that one size fits all approach, but rather take a really thoughtful approach to how they do SMS marketing and how they know which message to send to me versus to Jess versus to anyone here that's on the line with us, right? So Dossier uses SMS to send really unique engagements after somebody submitted user-generated content, when they ask for user-generated content via SMS, as well as update in regards to the loyalty program directly via SMS. They see over 20% of revenue from SMS marketing. They've seen 151% of growth in subscriber collection. And we spoke about, that moment being timely, being relevant, being when it's right for consumer. So they use a lot of our targeted flows capability to actually trigger messages at the right time for a customer. So the right time can be when they're shopping, when they're browsing. The right time can even be when they've interacted with a review, with loyalty and referrals, when they've subscribed to our product. Any of that, they see over 233x ROI on these triggered messages at the right time with the right data for customers. Jess, the next one is actually really unique. If I remember correctly, I think it's EM Cosmetics. Perfect. So EM Cosmetics, another amazing health and beauty brands, really interacting with customers with personalized messages. What they found out that's the most important to them when they came to us is they wanted every single message to be an extension of brand. Speaking about that kind of post methodology that Jess was talking about earlier, coming to us already with the goals, already kind of thinking, what do they want this channel to represent, how it should interact with consumers, like coming already with the vision. And then all we had to do here at Yapo SMS Dump was help them make this vision a reality. So for them, using GIFs, MMS, visuals, that was the way to actually capture customer attention, to really get the brand voice out there and engage with them in a really unique way that builds relationships. But not only that, asks for a two-way relationship. So we talked about earlier, a lot of brands just settle for that kind of blast, send out a message, they don't want to reply, they don't want an engagement back. For EM Cosmetics, engagement back was one of the most important elements. So a lot of their messages are using that conversational element and that visual element. They see over 57x ROI with SMS, and they saw 28% revenue increase with SMS marketing. That's one of the ways for us to check that SMS is successful. What is that revenue increase? Making sure that it's not just a substitute for another channel, but rather it's helping brands tap into another audience and a successful audience that wants to interact via this channel and sees value. And another important thing that we always focus on with brands is looking at the unsubscribe rate. So as you send messages, and hopefully you don't send messages like that example that should not be named that we saw earlier, right? You always want to keep a pulse on your unsubscribe rate, making sure that the list that you have, the customers that you have signed up to SMS in the different buckets, whether they're still in nurturing, whether they're already a customer, whether they're part of your loyalty program, whether they have a subscription for one of your products, you want to make sure that they're enjoying the messages they receive, which is why when we segment and send messages out, we always look at the unsubscribe rate, making sure that we're sending the right messages to the right customers and segments. And then lastly, for our last example, Princess Polly. So Princess Polly, I think, is a great example to end this session, because Princess Polly focuses primarily on Gen Z customers. And for them, what was really important is coming to us and using these messages throughout the whole customer life cycle. So we mapped out with Princess Polly, what are those most important moments within the customer life cycle? When do customers feel the most engaged to the brands? What does a moment look like? What would be valuable at each different segment in these various moments? And one of the areas that we focused around most was their loyalty program. So how can we make customers that are signed up to a loyalty program, Gen Z, feel like they're actually connected to the brand, like they're actually engaging with them, knowing what's going on, getting valuable content, and of course, like we alluded to earlier, understanding that overall context of who they are, what they want, what type of offer we're sending them, etc. So we combine Princess Polly's loyalty and SMS program. Over 50% of VIP customers have signed up for their SMS program. And what I love most about the stat is that it doesn't capture the whole picture actually, because VIP tiers, right? The whole idea is that you have multiple tiers. As you move up tiers, we see that number increasing and increasing. So I think at the highest tier, we've got over 90% of VIP customers sign up to SMS. That goes to show, you know, that opt-in mentality, that mentality of these consumers being empowered to actually choose how they want to be engaged, which moments matter to them. And after that, we basically started tailoring the engagement based on the VIP tier, based on who the customer is, based on what their loyalty journey looks like. So Princess Polly sees over 10x higher ROI on SMS engagements that are sent to loyalty members, and over 64x ROI on their whole program ROI, right? So obviously they don't just focus on loyalty program, but I thought this was just like a brilliant example on how, you know, you have all these customers that sign up to text, and then you want to segment them and understand who they are, what they are, and how you build different moments throughout the customer life cycle. That is it for me. These are the examples for today, Jess. I had a blast talking to you, and I think it's so important that as brands, regardless of SMS, by the way, I know this is the topic of the call, and I obviously care about SMS a ton and passionate about it, but regardless of SMS, you know, you have to build a marketing program that's tailored, built, tried based on the consumers, based on the audience. You know, that's what's going to be successful. That's what's going to keep consumers coming back again and again. And I love that you alluded to this, like, not linear customer journey, that hamster wheel that keeps on spinning, because one of the missions we have here at Yapo is to get customers to come back again and again. So I was smiling and laughing in that state, because for me, the hamster moving in that wheel is kind of, how do I get customers to actually come back again and again, that every moment is going to matter to them and all these experiences are going to be captivating for them. And I think this workshop is great for brands wanting to build this for their customers for SMS marketing. So huge thank you for being here with me today.
Awesome.
Last but not least, if anyone that's joined us today has questions, you can see the email here to email us at Yapo. We can talk about your SMS strategy. We can talk about your mobile engagement strategy, as well as share more in regards to our solution and what these brands are doing with SMS marketing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks for having me. It's great talking to you all.